So up until now, we've been using a 4/4 time signature. So this means we've been playing 4 beats in each bar, and these beats have been quarter note beats. So we're going to try something a bit different now. We're going to learn a bit more about what the time signature means, but we're going to try playing in a different time signature. But we're going to take a look, and of course the song at the end of this lesson is going to be using the 3/4 time signature as well. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this time signature. Remember, it's the 2 numbers next to either the treble clef or the bass clef. Now, we did have a quick look at this in lesson 3. The top number tells us how many beats are in a bar, and the bottom number tells us what type of beat that is. So there are a few different numbers this could be on the bottom. If it said a number 1, we'd be talking about whole notes. If it said 2, we'd be talking about half notes. If it said 4, quarter notes, and if it said 8, we'd be talking about eighth notes, which are quavers. Now, we haven't actually spoken about quavers yet in this course, but we will come to that in a few lessons' time. So I will just get rid of quavers for now. And also the number 1 is a very rare time signature. You don't really come across it. In fact, I don't think I ever have played anything in a 1 time signature. So let's get rid of that as well. And we'll take a closer look at the 2 and the 4 time signatures. So to start off, let's take a look at the most common, which is 4/4. This is one we hear in all sorts of pop music. It's 4 quarter notes in a bar, and it's so common it is sometimes called common time, and you might see it written like this with a C for common time. So 4 beats in a bar, let's put them in, there they are, and they're 4 quarter notes because the bottom number tells us they are quarter notes, so let's put them in as well. Now, it's important that you know that just because the time signature says 4 quarter notes in a bar doesn't mean you have to use quarter notes when you're writing music in that time signature. As long as the notes you use add up to 4 quarter notes in a bar, you can use whatever you like. So for instance, I could write it like this. The first bar, I've put in a whole note. That adds up to 4 quarter notes in a bar, so that's fine. And the second bar, I've ditched the last 2 quarter notes and changed them to a half note. And again, this is perfectly acceptable because they all add up to 4 quarter notes in a bar. So let's change that top number now to a 2. So now this time signature is telling us that we have 2 quarter notes in a bar. And what this does is it changes the pace of the music and the feel. So the top line of music, 4/4, is very much 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You've heard that a lot, and I've used it a lot in this course. Whereas the second line, the 2/4 signature, it's more of a marching feel. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Feels like more of a march. So it's changed how we perceive the music. And probably the most common distinction to make would be 3/4 time, which is also known as a waltz. So you would have heard of this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The waltz is very easy to pick out when you're listening to different time signatures. And actually one of the most famous songs in the world written in 3/4 time is Happy Birthday. And that's the song that we'll be learning at the end of this lesson. So that's how changing the numbers at the top of the time signature can change the feel and the pace of a piece of music. And actually the same goes for the bottom number. So let's change the bottom number now to a 2. So if we look at the top line, instead of 4 quarter notes in a bar, now we have 4 half notes in a bar. Now, as you know, a half note has to be held down for 2 beats. So we need to add in some ands here. So this rhythm would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it is very similar to the 4/4 time, but because we're using half notes, it's made it slightly slower and given us a slightly more relaxed feel to the piece. The same goes for the second line. It's still a marching rhythm of just 2 beats, but because they're half notes we're using, it now sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So it sounds slightly different again, and of course the same with our waltz. So now our waltz sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So it's slight changes, but it makes a big difference when you're writing music. And that's what the time signature is for. And it's important you know what it is and what it's used for. Something else you do need to be aware of is the 4/4 time signature and the 2/2 time signature are very, very closely related. In fact, they're so closely related that sometimes it's difficult to tell them apart. So a 4/4 time signature is 4 quarter notes, but you could use 2 half notes in that bar of music because that adds up to 4 quarter notes. And the same for the 2/2 time signature. It's telling us that there are 2 half notes in a bar. But I could add 4 quarter notes to each of these bars and that would still stay true to the time signature. So if I was to mix this second line of music up, and we have 2 half notes in the first bar and 4 quarter notes in the second bar, so how would you tell if it's a 2/2 time signature or a 4/4 time signature? Well, the truth is you wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to pick between the two, and both would be right and both would work. A composer would pick one because they're more advanced in music theory and they would use other elements of the piece to understand why it's in one time signature over the other. But you don't need to know too much about that right now. This is all just for your information. Because these 2 time signatures are very closely related, they both can use the C. The 4/4 can use the C and it's called common time. The 2/2 can use the C and there's a little line through it and that's known as cut common time. But try not to worry too much about that at the moment. Just remember that the time signature is there to show you the pace, the feel of a piece of music. The top number is telling you how many beats are in the bar and the bottom number is telling us what type of beat that is. So you are going to come across lots of different time signatures as you play, but in these early stages you'll be using the basic ones. So it's usually a 4/4 time signature. You may see 3/4, you may see 2/4, and you may see 2/2 or 3/2, which is basically using half beats instead of quarter notes. But for now, everything we're going to be doing is either in 3/4 or 4/4. And as you go through your piano playing journey, you'll start to learn new time signatures.